Hello, people. Um, I've been trying to recuperate from my long trip, uh, and I haven't been streaming as much as I really should be, could be. There's a lot of things I should be doing. Um, Hello. Why, thank you, Cassandra. Um, and But I thought I have been trying to get guests for Fountain of Comfort to have more discussions. Um, but I thought I would just do a little brief video on sanity, what it is, how to maintain it, how to promote it. Um, First thing I will say is sanity is not binary on and off. Um, Really, when we talk about health, we talk about biological health, psychological health, and social health. And some people would add spiritual to that. But um, all of these things go together. And what you want to do is make sure that you're taking care of yourself and those around you. As I like to say, um, don't think for yourself, think with others, think for others. Um, why, thank you. What's our first milestone? Raising $5,000. Thank you. We did. Uh, and you were a big part of that, Garth. I think you're number 2 on our donors list. So thank you. But so biological, psychological, and social, and spiritual, really. But you don't want to think just for yourself. You don't want to just think about yourself, because sanity is not something that's individual, right? Unfortunately, we have um, this idea that um, who we are is like, if you were to cut off an arm, you would still be you, and if you were to cut off another arm, you would still be you, and if you were to cut off basically everything and just have your head, there are people who cryogenically froze their head, and they just imagine that, that's all that there is to them. And frankly, it's just not true. It's really not true to who you are. um, Part of who you are and how you understand yourself, John Vervaeke talks about distributed cognition, right? And that's why Jordan Peterson's definition of mental health, which I really like: mental health is the harmony of your existence in relationship to the future and other people, right? And just like in physical health, you have people who are more physically healthy and less physically healthy, and you have people who are prone to, let's say, diabetes or to heart disease or to being overweight or being underweight, or, some people are very tall and some people are very short. You have similar characteristics in mental health, which is one of the main reasons I would say, if you want to keep sane, stay away from the DSM-5. Stay away from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Um, it will drive you crazy. Just sometimes having a diagnosis can be helpful. Having a professional diagnose you, but if you go into the DSM-5 and you self-diagnose first, and then you go to a professional, you're actually going to muddy the waters and make it less likely that they will be able to give you a good diagnosis. And some diagnoses, for example, autism spectrum disorder, are useful diagnoses. If you know that you have ASD, there are various ways of dealing with that, which will make your life easier and make other people's capacity to interact with you also easier. Knowing you have certain propensities or where certain symptoms come from, that can be useful as well, right? But the main way that you keep healthy is mentally, is by being involved in community with other people. I cannot stress this enough. We have this idea of isolating ourselves in order to improve our mental health. And that is only true if the people around you are driving you crazy. Don't surround yourself with people who will drive you crazy. At least not only people who will drive you crazy, because it is definitely possible for other people to drive you crazy. And you having a healthy community, a mentally healthy community, and this is what we're trying to help foster here, is a mentally healthy community can help other people stay healthy. What becomes very unhelpful is when people are driving each other nuts, and that happens. I have to say, online, there are people who deliberately search out people who have propensity for mental illness, and they deliberately try to drive them more crazy. It is a type of trolling which psychopaths and sadists find they love it, and so they engage in it. And so there is a reason why limiting your social media intake, limiting your access to the access of other people to you simply online, especially people that you don't know are actually people, right? So it it is not something most of us imagine that someone would be sadistic enough to do a lot of research on you, find out a lot about you, set up multiple profiles and multiple ways of um, of presenting themselves to you, and then so and then going ahead and like attacking you. Um, and part of the horrible part of this is that people who do stuff like that, they deliberately look for vulnerable people to do stuff like that. And the FBI has caught people who do this. There are people in jail for doing this type of stuff. And hopefully, maybe um, one day we will have less of a worry of this. But uh, keeping sane can include recognizing that you may be vulnerable to certain forms of manipulation, and these there are really horrible people out there who will do stuff like that. Um, so, you know, unplugging on a regular basis. Um, oh, it's worse than harassment charges. I mean, that's usually what it would I believe they get prosecuted under wire fraud statutes, just because that's how the federal government, in using interstate communication, um, and that you can, on charges of that, they really get at you. I think that's how it's usually prosecuted as. But these people, like, some of them, I mean, we're talking murder charges, kidnapping, like, there are bad people in the world. And one of the ways you can uh, help yourself be more robust and resilient against this type of stuff is by having just knowing your neighbors, knowing the people around you. I think it's really important. I mean, here in Los Angeles, we've kind of set up a little community for ourselves. Um, I go to the gym with Dr. Jack on a weekly basis. This keeps me sane. It keeps me healthy, both physically and mentally, right? Um, he do that. Do that with people. Our little estuary groups that we have every other week. There are a lot of things I have complaints about with estuary, but that's certainly not one of them. Being involved with your religious community. Go to church. Go to church. Go to church, you heathen. And I should probably be talking to myself. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur are coming up. I should at least go to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services. But yeah, just be involved in a community. And look, yes, you have to consider whether it is a community that's helping each other. So when I was leading domestic violence support groups, one of the biggest questions people would ask, is this a healthy relationship or is this an unhealthy relationship? And that's a very hard thing to determine, even on an individual basis. And it's not binary. Very few things in real life are binary, right? But one of the ways I would encourage people to think about it is, are the two of us more capable together than we are apart? Um, and in any community, you have to think, okay, are we as a community doing more things, more capable together? Is the sum of the parts greater than the uh, the sum of the whole, you know, greater than the individual parts? Because generally, two or more people working together should be far, far more capable of everything that they do, right? Than individually. Um, and so when you are in a relationship with someone where the two of you become less capable of doing everything, right? Just agency in your life, right? Then there's something wrong there, right? And having community, taking care of biological, psychological, social. Um, these are important things, right? And I shouldn't be saying anything new here. I don't think I'm saying anything new. I'm not saying anything controversial. But we seem to live in a crazy time when saying things which are should be pretty uncontroversial have become controversial, right? Um, Fixing stuff is a great way to practice agency. Yes, Garth, 100%, 100%. Um, when so when you're improving things and you're making things better, you will see the results, and there will be a feedback loop. And people who are destructive and self-destructive, and you see that dysfunction, and you don't want to be involved in that dysfunction. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's much more that I can say about this. There are some things that I can definitely um, recommend. Cognitive behavioral therapy is very worthwhile in terms of just helping you to stay away from patterns of um, unhealthy thinking. There are lots of apps, including free apps. There is a website called I Prevail, which anybody in Los Angeles County, the county of Los Angeles, pays for it, actually. I think other places pay for it as well. But if you are in Los Angeles County and you sign up for this website, I Prevail, there's a free um, online app and support group, which I highly recommend. Uh, and if you're not in Los Angeles, I think various health insurance companies do pay for it. Um, but it's I don't think it's that expensive. And there are free apps, and there are CBT workbooks, which you can get from a library, or you can download online or buy, right? And frankly, the workbooks work really great as well, which help you just ask a few questions if you're falling into these thought patterns, which are called cognitive distortions. And you can just Google cognitive distortions and look into them. So one of the most common ones is splitting. For example, so that's thinking, or black and white thinking, right? Thinking, oh, either things are going to be terrible or they're going to be great. Well, guess what? Vast majority of things end up being somewhere in between, right? The date you go on, most of them aren't the greatest thing in the world, and most of them aren't the worst experience in the world. Most of them are just okay, And or if you have a job interview, right? You don't. Most of them aren't horrible, and most of them aren't great. They're just okay. And we fall. So this is an unhealthy thought pattern we fall into, is splitting the possibilities. Right? It's either going to be great or it's going to be terrible. What if it's just okay? What if it's just okay? Right? What if there's a whole gradient from terrible to great, and things are going to fall somewhere on there, right? So this is one of the ways that cognitive behavioral therapy helps you question thought patterns which we fall into. And frankly, there's a reason why we fall into these thought patterns. They're pretty useful, right? um, and so, but when you talk to someone else who hopefully is also sane, um, you know, having dialogue, having relationship, and frankly, being in physical proximity with other people. Get off of the internet if you can, right? Um, yeah. If things were just okay, it wouldn't be as dramatic and exciting. Exactly. Exactly. Um, so, I mean, there's there's a lot of things available. There are books available. There are Jordan Peterson's books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every religious community, you know, having a prayer life, a meditation, whatever you want to call it, liturgy, um, and just physical exercise, eating well, paying attention to your nutrition, paying attention to taking care of yourself. Um, these are the ways in which we better our lives, we keep sane, and we better the lives of those around us. And honestly, I don't think I've said anything surprising or shocking or controversial in any way. These are basic things that we should remind ourselves of on a regular basis, because one of the things that drives us insane in this world is the fact that we use so much to distract ourselves from taking care of things and, frankly, ourselves, right? And we get stuck in our heads, and we get, um, and it's just really, really important to um, think not just by yourself, think with others, think about others, care about others, and we naturally want to do things. Um, you know, being isolated will drive you crazy. We want to help others. We want to feel needed, and we want to feel like um, we are contributing to others, and we're not, um, you know, just feeding off other people and being useless, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so do that. Help others, and in that you will be helping yourself. Um, and so this is the funny part. Um, you know, about half of the diagnoses in here, I don't know if I would say quite half, but there are quite a few diagnoses in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that are not useful. And the reason they're not useful is that the people who have those problems are not the type of people who are going to ever walk into, well, certainly voluntarily. I'm going to be starting my internship in a little bit, in a locked ward. We'll see how that goes. But there's, there's a lot of things where people, especially with personality disorders, where they're never going to seek help. That's not the type of person who seeks help, right? And this type of video, right? So how to stay sane. Why, thank you, Stephen. How to stay sane. The people who watch a video how to stay sane are people who already are willing to admit the possibility that maybe there are times when we aren't sane, right? That this is something that they need to work on. Well, guess what? A lot of the people who have the biggest problems are people who never ask those questions, who would never think about it, right? And that's a whole other category of problems, right? The people who do seek help, the people who do question their own sanity, they have a different, they're already selecting themselves into a certain category. And so they're much more likely to have some problems than others, right? Yeah, I mean, I think I've said pretty much everything I was meaning to say here. Again, I don't think I said anything that's really controversial in any way. Anything that's probably, I mean, everything I said was stuff you had already thought of. Old wisdom is old wisdom because it works. And yeah, these are the types of things that basically we've been hopefully repeating and paying attention to around here. Now, I will say I've been throwing around the idea of possibly having an online support group. A couple of people, only 2 people, have expressed any interest. If people are interested, I would be willing to do something. Excuse me. Something like that. But honestly, the best thing to do is to have an offline community, have people who you gather with. The loneliness crisis is real. The intimacy crisis is real, and intimacy doesn't necessarily have to be sexual, but can also be sexual, right? There's a reason I so much celebrate people getting married, right? Having people getting married, having people build families, having people have children, and in those communities, being together with each other, right? That's important. I was talking to somebody who I respect greatly, and he was talking about how sometimes it's a lot easier when he is away from his wife because she knows him so well that it's humbling, right? Look, there The biggest problems we fall into, the biggest dysfunctions, I have no idea who is going past my apartment that loudly, but it sounds like a bunch of Harleys. Sorry about that. Um, but one of the biggest causes of dysfunction is we get um, locked into. I don't know if you're interested, Cassandra, but yeah, we were talking about it on my Discord. Um, it would be a private thing. It wouldn't be on the channel. It would be just us talking together privately, and we would have to figure out a time that would be worthwhile. Um, but a good support group is just so good. But one of the biggest causes of dysfunction in people's lives is feedback loops and too much of one thing. And so having some degree of diversity, and by that I mean real diversity, not silly ideas that a lot of people have nowadays by that word. Um, you know, I recommend to couples have a date night away from your children. Have time when you if you need to get if you need to get a babysitter, and it's just you and your wife or you and your husband away from the children. I also recommend look have friends, same sex friends, right? This is another thing I've been trying to explain to people. Once you're married, no, you are not allowed to have good friends of the opposite sex, who are not more friends with your spouse than you are, right? Um, opposite sex friends don't work. Sorry, that's just not a thing. Um, but yeah. Um, so I think that's about it. I don't know if there's anything else. Does anybody actually want to jump on and discuss anything? Um, there's the link. I don't know if people have comments, questions they want to put into the chat. Otherwise, I will conclude this and hopefully uh, actually get to bed early this evening. Um, Yes, sleep also promotes sanity. Okay, I think nobody's too interested. You guys have a good evening. I am going to sign off.